Today I have the privilege to be talking with Olga Vidisheva, and I'd like to give her a nice, loud welcome and welcome her to the stage. All right, so we'll just get started, and I'll let you tell them a little bit more about what Shoptiques is. Where did you find that inspiration? And
awesome. First of all, thanks for having me, guys. Really excited to be here in warm Tucson. So, as Rosie said, my name is Olga Vidisheva, and I started a company called Shoptiques. So Shoptiques is a platform where you can go and discover the coolest stores around the world. So it used to be that if you lived in Tucson and you wanted to shop in Paris or London, you had to buy a plane ticket and fly there. The stores simply weren't online, and even if they were, it was just super hard to discover. And so what we did is we brought them online and created shoptiques.com for shoppers like yourselves to come and discover and wear clothes that are unique and represent who you are. And on top of that, it's also an amazing tool for small businesses around the world to be able to compete in a crazy, evolving marketplace without kind of all day long thinking, what do I do next? And so we do their online presence, we do their photography, we do their logistics, really creating them into their own brands online and being very, very cool and competitive in a big global stage.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the hardest part about a boutique is that it's very small, so it's hard to, manage an inventory for a giant online presence and in stores when it's selling out so fast. So I think that it's been a great platform and a great advantage for them. But before Shoptiques, you have had a very diverse career path and a very unique upbringing. So do you want to share with us how you got to Shoptiques?
Yeah. So I was born in Kyrgyzstan, around the corner from here. And so moved to the States at the age of 17, didn't speak any English, and actually learned to speak English at a Japanese restaurant in Santa Fe, New Mexico, out of all places, And so after that, I went to, attended Wellesley College and graduated there, girl power.
Yes.
And so after Wellesley, I went to work on Wall Street. I actually worked at Goldman Sachs as an investment banker. I traveled a lot, and every time I would travel, I would go shopping at small places. We did a little shopping even in Tucson. So it's always been kind of a passion to discover local artisans and local cultures. And so when I would go back to New York at 2 in the morning in my banking hours, I would be like, where's the store? I love it. I want something else. And the stores weren't online. And so after Goldman, I went to Harvard Business School. And so when I was there, I had a little bit of time to think about, why are the stores not online? How can I help them be online and really compete in a global stage? And so right after business school, I started Shoptiques, and we also just launched a baby site called shopkids.com. Oh, yes. So it's been a really fun journey here.
Absolutely. So being a female in this industry, and I think all of us have heard from male founders all day today, so it's really cool to have this female up here who is absolutely so empowering. But what were some challenges you faced starting your own company?
I think that whether male or female, the challenges are fairly similar. I think the biggest challenge is it's always up and down. It's always unpredictable, and so I think the key thing to remember. Gender doesn't matter. You have to believe in who you are and believe in your own abilities. There's a lot of gentlemen here who were on stage. They started male-oriented businesses. That makes sense, right? I think it's easier for them to relate to that, obviously. And for me, I started a business where I felt like I was better positioned to understand the boutiques, but also understand female market, which is why we in particular started with clothing, for example, because I knew the space. Adding kids, I don't have children, so I had to really bring on board a team that understood how mothers shop and how to think about that space. So I think female or male, the number one thing to think about is start something where you feel like you have a competitive advantage. And number two is you just have to be insanely passionate about the idea, and you just have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, it doesn't matter kind of how the world perceives you. The most important thing is believe in yourself, you can get it done. my best advice to everybody is like, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So just ask, go for it, and do it.
Awesome. I think that, talking to you previously, your energy and everything, it comes out. So what is your work environment like? Starting a startup, sometimes you start in a garage or you start in a workspace. And so what's the energy? What are the people like? What do you like to work around?
So I was fortunate to get into a program called Y Combinator. So Y Combinator is an incubator out of San Francisco. Dropbox, Airbnb, other companies like that came out of it. And so I think that their idea historically has been as like a garage. That's a great example. But I think the reason the garage was kind of, the face of startups, if you will, is because it was a smallerish space where you could create your own culture, right? People throw this idea of culture around. But it is one of the most important things, I believe, in success of a business. So having kind of thought about who you are as a person, who you want the company to be, what you want the company to stand for. So we started in a co-working space, but we had our own little kind of area where we started to create our own culture. And as soon as kind of we finished Y Combinator, we moved into a separate space. So our culture is very high energy, so you probably can tell I'm high energy. So everybody is even more high energy in the office, and we do a lot of sales over the phone. So if you come to our office, it's loud. It's like it feels like trading floor. People on the phone, talking to stores, talking to customers, and I think that if you're a person who needs absolute quiet, we have a ton of conference rooms. But if you're that person, or if you're a person who is more introverted, probably it's harder. To be in our environment, just because everybody is so high energy, but they're also so passionate about what we are building that it probably can come across as like people are a little crazy, but they're all excited about what they're doing, and it's loud and exciting. And I think my advice is always kind of identify what that culture you want to create, and create it in that whatever the environment is that you want.
Yeah. I think that being around people who motivate you, who are smarter than you, always is uplifting and can take you to higher places. The whole process of Shoptiques, I think, is really unique, and I know that you've played a really big role. Do you want to touch on your role and maybe the steps that go into getting these products online and the whole process of building a website for boutiques?
So it's pretty cool. So I had a crazy story, a lot of kind of crazy journey along the way how we built Shoptiques. The first website we had, it was a private beta before we got into Y Combinator. I built it out of Indonesia. So I was maid of one at a wedding, and I was looking for engineers. I had no idea how to even find engineers. So I met this random guys in Jakarta, and I was like, "You were going to build me a website." And so we built a website, and it was a lot of, it was not really great. And so after Y Combinator, we ended up building a whole website, and I was involved every step of the way, in every detail, in every design. And then, through that first kind of website design to now we have 6,500 stores on the platform that are using us, I stayed really, really involved. And so from originally designing the site to now picking every single store that goes onto the site, I still select and review every store, just because I think for us, we don't curate the products themselves, we curate the stores, and then they curate the product. So we want to make sure that every store brings a point of view and really brings something that we are missing on the marketplace, whether it's a style. We have different price points from $5 to $5,000, from retro style to modern to trendy, because every store curating for their woman, and so every woman can really find themselves onto the site. So we always want to make sure that every woman can feel beautiful by going to Shoptiques and shopping. So bringing that every single one on board. Once we curate the boutique, they actually mail us the product into our studio in New York. So it becomes really crazy, photo shoots, models running around, and that kind of adds to that culture you just talked about, loud and exciting. So we shoot a lot of product on the site. We shoot about 800 products every single week, and we add, on average, 100 to 200 products every single day onto the site. So it's always something new to discover and come on board. And so once the product goes live, we have a team that onboards and uploads all the product, and then boutique is like, wow, cool, I'm getting orders. But the actual orders come out of the boutiques themselves. So if you bought from Paris, you're literally going to get a package with a Parisian custom stamp straight to your house, which is really exciting to get that.
Yeah, I remember when I was working at the boutique, and once you sign up with Shoptiques, you get packaging. You get like the pink, really fun Shoptiques. And I think that's something that goes to say something a lot about your branding. Like this pink Shoptiques, it's very, it sticks with you, it resonates with you for sure, and it's very memorable.
Yeah, when we interviewed women, when we started kind of thinking about pink, it's just, no matter what your age was, everybody associated with like happy, whether they wore it or not. They're just like, oh, it's a happy color. So we wanted to be, you know, and our logo is a smile and a shopping bag. And so we wanted to bring that happiness to every woman.
I do have to say, shopping does put a smile on my face.
Exactly.
So you just launched the Shoptiques Kids, or the Shop Kids, and that is going great. But what are your next steps? Like, what do you envision for Shoptiques in the future?
I just want to make the world more accessible. You know, obviously I was born, you know, far, far away. I don't even know how I ended up here. But, you know, for me, it's like, why can't you not shop in Morocco? Why can you not shop in Bali and make the world like at your fingertips on one website? And so what I really gets me excited is connecting amazing shoppers with entrepreneurs, right? Women who start, and majority of our founders are women. Women who start these businesses, they're not doing it for any alternative motive. Like they're just excited to serve their community, to bring this amazing products to the world, and be able to kind of bring those artisans from around the world onto one platform for people to discover. And then, you know, we just had a woman who wore a dress from Shoptiques to her wedding. Like being part of those moments in people's lives. You know, when you buy on Shoptiques, the store writes you a note, thank you so much for shopping. I really believe in these connections that people make around the world. And I think as the internet kind of becoming more and more kind of isolating, I think it's important to also remember that we're all humans, and those humans interactions are just so much fun and amazing. And so connecting people around the world, that's really what I get excited about. But then, you know, kind of shorter term, we're launching a product for in-store, it's called SPOS, or Shoptiques Point of Sale System. And it's going to really help small businesses, not only online, which is what we've done so far, but really in store. Because we think that they're at a disadvantage as technology evolves. And companies like, you know, Macy's and Amazon are using technology to manage their offline experiences. They're not getting as much attention. And so we want to bring that technological development into the small businesses and really help them manage inventory better, manage customers better, and just be better, smart businesses.
Absolutely. So what are some things that you think that you've really maybe had to overcome and you've learned a lot from it, and that you would advise other startups to do, or other entrepreneurs?
Well, I think that kind of, we talked about culture. I think for me, it was definitely a crazy journey to my amazing team that I have now. I think, you know, early on, you're almost a product of kind of the exposure that you've had. You know, I worked at Goldman Sachs where everybody was so motivated. You know, then I went to Harvard Business School. People were really, really driven. So I kind of anticipated that every single person I'm going to encounter past that was going to be like that, right? And so I don't think that I paid as much attention to kind of the profile or the type of person that I want to be around, and the type of profile and culture that I wanted to create. I was just like, oh, that person is cool, let's hire them. And I think that I should have been more strategic around the culture right off the get-go, and really thinking about really meticulously, like I did about the website or about the boutiques. I should have thought about every single person I brought on board. And so I think we made a lot of mistakes along the way. And I don't think you can ever hire 100%, but I think that we should have been more thoughtful around kind of what is the culture we wanted to create, and would have probably you know, overcome a lot of things that we had to kind of overcome there. But I also think it's learnings. I think my best advice, despite, you know, we've had so much up and down, but it's just enjoy every moment, because it's a lot of fun to be able to create something from nothing, but it's also really, really hard. And then have amazing community of friends and family around you that will pick you up when you're at the bottom and be like, actually, you're doing good things, you know?
Yes. Well, speaking of friends and family and owning your own business, how do you balance this work life and your friends and social life? And how do they support you?
I don't believe in work-life balance. It implies that work is not part of your life. I believe in an amazing, fulfilling life and having an amazing work that fulfills who you are. And then, I actually just got married about a month ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We didn't want to plan a wedding. We threw a surprise wedding because we're both founders and we didn't have time. So I think that you just have to be thoughtful about who you are and what's special to you, and then make sure that your life is fulfilling and that work doesn't feel like work. Work feels like life, and your work family feels like life family. When I go to work, I don't think, oh, my colleagues. Like, I think, oh my God, my friends.
Yeah.
And that just stops being work life, and I'm not worried when I'm gonna leave my office because I'm having so much fun when I'm there. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
so many of my employees that I worked with, my first employee who now have left the company after 4 years, she moved to London. I talk to her every day, right? So who said that? Is she a friend? Is she work? Is she life? What is it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that the key to an amazing, fulfilling life is to have every aspect of your life mean something to you in a meaningful way, and then just kind of, there are going to be periods where it's all going to be about work. There are going to be periods when it's all going to be about personal, and so just be thoughtful about what they are, and just go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting out with Shoptiques, and we've kind of been talking about funding and investments, and did you have to go through that? I know you talked about the why a little bit and how that kind of helped you kickstart your career. But did you have to reach out to other investments, and how did you go about doing that? You came from investment banking, so I mean, you kind of were on the other side of it, so how did you go and approach that?
It's really interesting because investment banking primarily for huge companies. So even though I did kind of had exposure to finance, I didn't have as big of a network right off the get-go to fundraise. So my biggest advice to a lot of founders who are just starting out is really utilize the programs like Y Combinator. There's Techstars in New York. And I think that they just give you exposure and kind of status of approval to the network of investors, because there's so much noise out there for investors. Finding the right company is hard. And so we raised a $2 million seed round right out of Y Combinator. And we got exposure. We raised it from Andreessen Horowitz, Greylock, Benchmark, SV Angel, which are like top venture capital firms, primarily because of our participation in Y Combinator. And I was their first single non-technical founder, which is my path to fame in the in the community there. Absolutely. Which was so much fun because I was like the only girl with like hundreds of engineers, which was awesome. And so we raised that funding, and then the business was growing. 40% month over month, was profitable, and then we got term sheets and we raised the Series A after that. I think the key is get enough money that you're able to have your business sustainable, because sometimes in this crazy PR-driven world, people forget that it's not about raising money for the sake of raising money or for the sake of being in TechCrunch. It's all about how can you get your business from here to there, how can you get there faster, but in a more thoughtful, sustainable way. We are going to see, I think, the statistics already this year alone, more companies went out of business, well-funded businesses, than all of last year. And so what we are seeing is a lot of people raised money because it was easier perhaps to raise money, I'm not sure, and they didn't have fundamentally great businesses. And so I think that people have to just think about, what is this business? How much money do I realistically need versus how much can I raise? And how can I take this business to the next level? And so don't over-raise, don't under-raise, but just be very thoughtful about it. And so if you raise just enough money to showcase that it's a great business, then the investors will be there. You'll find the right investors, and my recommendation is interview them as if they were your husband for the rest of your life, because you are with those people for quite a long time, and having awesome, great investors is day and night from not having people who will support you, because it's always going to be up and down. The world is changing so rapidly that having great investors in the down times is just completely game changing.
Absolutely. I think building relationships in all areas of business is probably one of the best things, and that goes from investors to networking to your colleagues, your classmates, wherever you're at. But I know we've got a lot of younger kids in the audience. So when you were getting out of college and you were going through, when you went from actual college to Harvard Business School, what were your challenges? Like, did you know what you wanted to do or where you wanted to end up? And like, what was your thought process before?
Totally. So I think that so when I graduated, I paid for college myself. So I was coming out with, I don't know how much debt. So for me, there was two things that were important. And in different parts of your life, there are going to be different things that are important to you. For me, it was important to pay down my debt. And it was important for me to move my grandma from Russia to America. And so I chose to go to Goldman Sachs, and I loved it there because people were so, so brilliant, but also because it allowed me to do those two things, right? So for me, it was I moved my grandma to America, I paid out my debt, and then after Goldman, I was able to go to business school. I kind of thought that it could be a potentially an amazing, long-lasting career in finance, but fairly early on, probably 6 months in, I knew that kind of advisory as opposed to doing, like I'm much more of a doer, operator, builder. I knew that advisory work wasn't something that I was kind of excited for the rest of my life. I felt a little bit unfulfilled by giving advice and then not actually doing it. Although there are amazing mentors of mine who love giving advice and they love those types of careers like consulting and finance. But I still wanted to be the best for the first years of my life, and a lot of the people I worked with ended up investing in ShopTeaks. So, my advice to the young kids in the audience is no matter what you do, no matter whether this is going to be a life forever, the best job of your life or not, or maybe you'll try to forget about this job, just be the best version of yourself at all times, because those are connections that will last you for the rest of your life. And be very clear to yourself. I always tell my team, the only person you can't lie to is yourself. So really talk to yourself and think about what is important to you in the first journey. Maybe the first, your career step is for you to learn who you are. Then try to get a job that will expose you to every part of an industry. So if you are a person who is unsure what you want to do, I would say a startup is an early stage startup is an amazing place, because you'll get thrown into crazy things and you'll get to see how does marketing work, how does merchandising work, how does customer service work, whatnot, how technology, product, etc. For somebody who they think, at the very least, very, very sure they think that they want to do a very specific role, then go to a bigger company and really kind of learn how the structured, bigger institution do that role. And so be very strategic around what you want to do and then go and pursue that.
Absolutely. So we have a few last final questions that Scott wants us to ask, which I think are pretty unique and fun. It kind of gives you a little bit more insight on your personality and your character. But so the first one is, what is your favorite food?
It's pasta and ketchup.
Pasta and ketchup.
Yes, pretty embarrassing, but I love it.
You know what? My uncle, he likes to put ketchup on everything.
I put ketchup on everything.
On eggs, mac and cheese, like you name it.
Me too.
So I get it. So what is something most recently that made you laugh the hardest?
Oh, that's a tough one. So I have a dog, a 3-pound little dog. She's 9 years old. So she makes me laugh all the time. So for her birthday, she just turned 9. For her birthday, I got her a monkey, and I was at the store, and the monkey, so she's 3 pounds, so this big, and the monkey was like this long.
Oh,
and I don't know why I even bothered to do that, but I bought this big monkey, and so she's carrying that monkey around everywhere. So you see this little puppy walking around and this like schlepping huge monkey behind her. So it just makes me laugh all the time, because the ambition, that's what it's all about.
Tiny
she
dog.
Doesn't care that this monkey is probably
on the
3
big
pounds.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That is great.
So just a great reminder to go for it, no matter what.
Awesome advice from your dog.
Yes.
What book would you most recommend?
There's an amazing, amazing book by a woman who was the last CFO of Lehman Brothers. Her name is Ellen. I can't remember the last name. So the book is called Full Circle. She self-published it, and it's so incredible for both men and women in finance and not finance. I was so just fascinated by her life, her honest assessment of her life. She obviously raised to the ranks of a huge, in a huge position and played a huge role in finance in general. But I also think that for anybody, even startup people, they just must read this book. And I think it's an amazing journey and how she talks about it.
Absolutely, that's great. Well, our time is about done, so we're going to open it up for questions. But I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having
I've
me.
had a great privilege and honor to get to talk to you and get to know you a little bit more, so I really appreciate it. But if you guys have questions and you guys want to come up, go ahead. We've got a couple of microphones set here.
Go ahead. Okay. Hi. Thank you for coming. First of all, my name is Sandra Lai. I'm with Pima Community College here in Tucson. And I have a question about something you said. You said you don't curate product, you curate stores. But then later you talked about how you're selling a lot of merchandise from artisans. And artisans can be notoriously unpredictable in terms of their production. So how do you curate those relationships, select the artisans with some level of confidence that they're going to deliver on orders and not perhaps make your own company look bad?
An amazing question. And so when I started Shoptiques, I had to think about whether I will go work with boutiques, so the actual physical stores, or with designers, right? And the idea of helping designers and artisans in their right is like so appealing to me. But I went and I worked with only physical stores. And the reason that we only work with physical stores, then in turn curate the designers, is because they have lights to turn on every day, they have rent to pay, they have employees that come in and ship out the orders every single day. And that was really, really just important distinction for us, because to your point of, if they don't deliver on the product, on the quality, it's going to look bad on Shoptiques. But the way we kind of think about curating the stores, so we actually do a full interview process for every single store on Shoptiques. And we ask them, why did you start the business? How are you financing it? And we only take people, and we don't talk about it publicly, but we only take people who have something to lose. And the reason we do that is because when you are a buyer at a big company, you have a salary and maybe you have a little bonus and you're buying and you're picking stuff. When you're a boutique owner and you're buying with your own money, and if you don't sell that merchandise and you have to mark down, you will really feel the pain of that. So you're really buying with your heart and you're thoughtful about it. That's the type of boutiques we are going for, because they're not just going to put junk online, because their customers in stores will never buy that, right? So we're essentially curating the curators, and then the curators curating the designers. And that's kind of how we make sure that we maintain the quality and maintain consistency. And then we give them the shipping label, so we have kind of fail-safes at all points. Like we see the dashboards of which orders went out, which ones didn't. We give them the packaging materials. So we try to help in every single way possible. And then on top of that, we curate all the photos. So when they submit a product, it actually goes through a full team to review the product, make sure everything is consistent, the description is descriptive, et cetera.
Okay, follow-up question, a brief one. Do you have a minimum number of items per product that you require those retailers to put for sale?
We encourage them to have a full size run. I think all of us women have gone shopping and it's so frustrating when it's like not in your size. So we encourage them to always put a full size run, but if it's a handmade, handmade shirt, we can't.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
Okay, I have a question too. What would you say is Shoptique's biggest competition you see either right now or in 5 years from now with the changing retail marketplace and the expectation of digital versus brick and mortar shops?
So it's a great question. All of you guys came in here dressed. So I think the competition is everybody, because you're not going to go naked if you don't buy on Shoptiques. So we really have to think about, where we're competing for a share of the wallet. I think we're competing with everybody. We're competing, back in the day, you would buy a dress to make yourself feel better. Now you might buy a lipstick, right? So how do I make you so delighted to buy a dress that you'll say, oh, you know what? I don't want the Kylie Jenner's lipstick. I want Shoptique's dress from a boutique in Paris. And so I think that when we think about competition, we really just think about that delivering happiness. That's what we really do at the end of the day, in empowering women to be the best version of themselves. And how do we do that online when you don't get that physical interaction?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, what are some of the obstacles that you face as a female entrepreneur?
I think probably the same ones that male entrepreneurs face. I'm a single founder, so it's really hard because you don't have anybody to cry to. You're like, oh, you know what? It's hard. Okay, move on. Next problem. So I think that, it's just really, really tough to be a founder. It's really unpredictable, and so I think it's probably very similar to everybody else. I think you just have to have an amazing support system that, you can call and be like, I have amazing mentors, and I call them and treat them kind of like founders and be like, I'm going through this, what do I do? But that's about it. And you get probably scrutinized more for what you wear, like Hillary Clinton did at the campaign, so you see that for women a lot more. And people like to comment on stuff, random stuff. How does my hair look? I don't think people do that for men as much. But that's about it.
Thank you.
Of course.
Go over here.
Sorry.
I was wondering, you say that your coworkers are like your friends. Do you think you would have had a more advanced progression in your company if you were more strict with your coworkers?
Well, I think that strict is probably not the right word. I still have a very clear distinction of, we do things that we set the strategy to be. I don't think so. I think my team they are my family, but I think that's pretty clear that it's all about the numbers. They have to deliver. Their compensation is tied to performance. But I think day to day, I don't think making it an environment where people feel like it's intense or, strict. I don't know if it's a management style, I guess. So I'm sure that there are examples of people who achieve amazing results when it's intense and when not. I just want to come to work and be happy and feel like it's my life and I love people around me. There are also stressed out moments, trust me. So it's not like, it's always just people holding hands, but people still delivering and getting results.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, we have time for one more.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming to the Ideas to Doors conference. It's awesome hearing you speak about your company. I guess the one question I do have is, when I think of boutiques, I generally think of how unique each individual one is and how they kind of have their own style, and it's very well curated. And when you're on the Shoptique's website, how do you portray the unique aspects of each boutique without the boutiques losing their sense of brand awareness or what they kind of come across in their own bricks and mortars? How do you portray that online?
I mean, that's really hard. I think it's you're bringing the perfect question. Like, we think about it all the time. I think as technology evolves, like, we want to do more like 360 in store and things like that. You can get a feel for the store. But think about Facebook, right? Facebook did a pretty great job of setting up templates. But if you go to a page for a boutique, or if you go to your personal page, I still get a feeling of who you are through the products, through the post, through the language. So it's a fine line of us still making sure that the site feels clean and there are standards around everything, but allowing them expression, right? That's why we don't curate what products they're going to list on the site. We give them guidance, but at the end of the day, they're going to decide if they're going to list this crazy skirt with like feathers, or if they're going to do a basic black dress. So I think for them, the products are the content and how they express themselves. Descriptions are how they write descriptions. It's like, you can feel that honor. We do a lot with photos. We think photos are kind of a descriptive place. Like, if you go online and you see the photo of the store, you can start getting a feel for that boutique. But that's the biggest challenge, because also, how do I make you feel like you're in Paris?
Yeah.
Right? Like, telling the story of those cities, like the things that I love most about traveling. is, discovery and walking into the boutique. How can I make you feel like that on a Friday night when you're watching TV? And that's what we want to be doing. And so we do that. We work really, really hard at it. And if you guys have cool ideas, please email. My email is olga@shoptiques.com. We always look to bring that feeling of an excitement of like jet life, jet setting around the world. I also brought a bunch of gift cards. So if you guys want to stop by after and pick it up, it's there for $25 for you guys to try the site.
Awesome. Well, everyone give her a good, loud welcome.
Thank you for having